Hello everyone, I'm Ardani Kharisma. I'm from University State of Surabaya. I made this video as an assignment for my Information System Security course. Today, I'm going to review a very important journal. The title is Risk Assessment and Risk Management Review of Recent Advances on their Foundation. It was written by Terje Aven. In today's world, cyber threats are getting more and more complex every day. We hear about data breaches, ransomware attacks, and hacking incidents all the time. To deal with these threats properly, we need a strong foundation of how to think about risks, how to measure it, and how to manage it. This is exactly what this journal teaches us. So let's get started. I hope this video is useful for you. Okay, before we start, let me quickly walk you through what we are going to cover in this video. First, I will introduce the journal. Second, we will talk about the background and purpose. Third, we will discuss the main concept. Fourth, we will look at uncertainty in risk assessment. Fifth, we will go through the risk assessment strategies. Sixth, I will connect all these ideas, especially to information system security. Seventh, I will share some supporting reference that I use to strengthen this review. And finally, eighth, I will give you my critical evaluation of the journal. So this is our roadmap for today. Let's go into it. Before we talk about the content, let me first introduce this journal to you. This journal was written by Terje Aven. He is a professor at the University of Stavanger in Norway. He is one of the most well-known experts in the world in the area of risk analysis and risk management. He is also very active in the Society for Risk Analysis, which is a big international organization that focuses on developing the science of risk. This journal was published in the European Journal of Operational Research. This is one of the most respected journals in the world of operations research. It is indexed in Scopus and Web Science, which means it has very high quality standards. One interesting thing about this journal is that it is an invited review. This means the editor of the journal personally invited Aven to write this review article because of his expertise. This shows how much trust the academic community has in him. Okay, now let's talk about the background and purpose of this journal. Aven starts with an interesting fact. The idea of risk is actually very old, more than 2,400 years old. People in ancient Athens already talked about risk before making important decisions. But what about risk assessment and risk management is a proper science? This is actually quite young, only about 30 to 40 years old. It was in that time period that we start to see scientific journals, conference, and research community that focus specially on how to properly assess and manage risks. But the basic principle from the 1970s and 1980s are still the foundation that we use today. But of course, the world has changed a lot. The risks we face now are much more complex, especially in the digital world. Cyber threats, data breaches, system failures, these are all risks that require more advanced thinking. So, the purpose of this journal is to review the let's advance the foundation of risk thinking. Evan is not just looking at new tools or techniques. He goes deeper than that. He asks, how do we think about risk? How do we define it? And how do we manage it in a smart way? One key idea that Evan introduces is what he calls integrative thinking. This concept comes from researcher named Martin in 2009. It means the ability to look at two opposing ideas instead of just picking one. Find a creative solution that combines the best of both. This way of thinking runs through the whole journal, and I think it is very relevant to how approach security challenges that are always changing. Now let us get to the most important part of the journal. What does risk actually mean? Evan explained that in the risk field, there are two main tasks. Task 1 is specific practice. This means using risk assessment to deal with risks in specific situations. For example, checking how safe a company's network is, or assessing the risk of a data breach in a particular system. Task 2 is generic research. This means developing concepts, theories, and frameworks that can work for all kinds of situations. This is the main focus of the journal. The result of Task 2 is the tools and ideas that support Task 1. Now, one of the biggest challenges in the risk field is this. How do we even define risks? It turns out there's no single definition that everyone agrees on. Evan summarized 7 different definitions from the Society for Risk Analysis or SRA. But when you look at all of them carefully, they all say the same basic thing. Risk is combination of consequence and uncertainty. The ISO definition, which is the most commonly used international standard, says risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Simple but very powerful. To measure risks, Evan introduced something called the risk triple. It has 3 parts. First is C prime, the consequence, meaning what bad thing could happen. Second is Q, the uncertainty measure is usually probability number. Third, and this is the most interesting part, is K, the background knowledge. This is all the information, experience, and understanding that supports our estimate. But why is K so important? Let me give you an example. Imagine two security analysts but say probability of a cyber attack on our system is 20%. But analyst A calculated the number based on a fully security audit, 5 years of attack logs, and a detailed vulnerability assessment. But analyst B just made a rough guess. The number is the same 20%, but the quality of the knowledge behind it is very different. The difference is what K represents. Now let's talk about one of the most critical topics in this journal, uncertainty. Evan explained that there are 2 types of uncertainty in risk assessment. The first is called aleatory uncertainty. This is the uncertainty that comes from randomness. It is always there and we cannot get rid of it. For example, we cannot know the exact time a natural disaster will happen. In the cyber world, we cannot know exactly when a bot network will start an attack. It is random by nature. The second type is epistemic uncertainty. This comes from our lack of knowledge. The good news is this type can be reduced by doing more research, collecting more data, and learning more about the situation. For example, maybe we do not know about a zero-day vulnerability in our system right now, but if we do a true penetration test, we may find it. Once we find it, our uncertainty goes down. Now, when we try to measure uncertainty, we usually use probability numbers, but Evan gives us an important warning. Do not just trust the number. You also need to think about the strength of knowledge behind that number. Evan suggests we use pair P and SOK. SOK is strength of knowledge and P is the probability. SOK is a qualitative measure of how good our knowledge is. Is our data enough and relevant? Are the assumptions we made reasonable? Do experts agree? Do we actually understand what is happening? This matters a lot in information system security. Think about a brand new type of ransomware that has never appeared before. We have no historical data on it, we do not fully understand how it works, and we have never dealt with it before. In this situation, any probability number when assigned has a very weak SOK. We must be honest about this weakness when we report to decision makers. If they think our 30% estimate is based on solid data when it's actually just a rogue guess, they might make the wrong decision. Verizon's data breach investigation report from 2024 also confirmed this. Many security breaches happen because organizations are too confident in their risk model without admitting how much they do not know, especially about new and evolving threats. Now let's move to the most practical part. How do we actually manage risks? Evan explained that there are three main strategies for managing risks. The first is the risk informed strategy. This means we use the result of our risk assessment to make decisions. In information system security, this could mean deciding which security controls to invest in based on which risks are the highest. Or it could mean deciding to shut down a certain service because the risk is too high. The second strategy is the cautionary or precautionary strategy. This means being careful even when we do not have complete evidence yet. In the cyber world, this is very important. We do not need to wait until we get attacked to start backing up our data. Training employees about phishing or setting up a firewall. We know the risk exists, so we prepare in advance. The third strategy is the discursive strategy. This is about building trust through open communication and involving all the people who are affected by the risks. In information security, this includes being honest with the user when a data breach happens, getting management's buy-in for security policies, and building a strong security culture within their organization. For the risk management process itself, Aven refers to ISO 31000, which has 6 steps: establish content, identify risks, analyze, evaluate, treat, and then monitor continuously. This is very similar to ISO or IEC 2705, which is the specific international standard for information security risk management. Evan also talks about two very important concepts: robustness and resilience. Robustness is the ability to stay strong, to keep working even when something goes wrong. In the cyber world, we build robustness through layered security control, redundant system, and network segmentation. If one part fails, the rest still hold. Resilient is different. Resilient is the ability to bounce back after something has already gone wrong. It includes four key abilities: the ability to respond quickly, to monitor what is happening, to anticipate future problems, and to learn from past experience. In information security, resilient means having a solid incident response plan, regular data backup, and a business continuity plan so that even if we get hit by an attack, we can recover fast. Evan is very clear. You need both robustness and resilience. They are not the same thing, and you cannot replace one with the other. Now, one of the most exciting part of this journal is the discussion about black swans. This concept was made famous by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his 2007 book. A black swan is a very rare event that no one predicts, but when it happens, the impact is enormous. In the cyber world, for example, include the SolarWinds attack in 2020, where hackers hid inside a trust software update and went undetected for months. Another example is WannaCry in 2017, which spread to more than 200,000 systems in 150 countries in just a single day. The lesson from Black Swan is this: do not only prepare for the threats you already know about, you also need a strategy for things you have never seen before. And the way to do that is to build systems that are adaptive, resilient, and always learning, not just systems that are defended against yesterday's attacks. Now let me share some supporting references that I use to strengthen this review and connect to the world of information system security. The first one is NIST Special Publication 830 Revision 1 titled Guide for Conduction Risk Assessment. This is an official guide from the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States. It is widely used in the IT industry. What is interesting thing is that the NIST approach matches very closely with what Aven describes. NIST defines information security risks as threat likelihood times impact, which is basically a practical version of the risk report that Aven talks about. The second reference is ISO 2705 from 2022. This is the international standard specially for information security risk management. It takes the general principle that Aven describes and applies them directly to the information security context. The risk management process in ISO 2705 is very similar to ISO 3000 that Aven mentioned, but with additional steps specific to cyber threats. The third reference is a classic paper by Kaplan and Carrick from 1981, published in the journal Risk Analysis. The title is "One the Quantitative Definition of Risks." This paper is where the risk triples scenario, probability, and consequence originally came from. I haven't referenced this paper because it has been the foundation of risk quantification in many industries, including nuclear energy, for more than 3 decades. The fourth reference is First Zone's Data Breach Investigation Report from 2024. This is an annual report that provides real-world data on cybersecurity incidents worldwide. It is a great source of empirical evidence that supports many of the concepts Evan talks about, including the importance of acknowledging uncertainty and preparing of unexpected threats. And the fifth reference is the book Principles of Information Security by Whitman and Mathord from 2011. This is one of the most comprehensive textbooks in information security. It provides a complete framework for IS security that integrates risk management as an central component, which is very consistent with the philosophy that Aven promotes. Let's now talk about the final section of the journal, the future of risk assessment and risk management. Aven identifies several key challenges that we need to face going forward. The first is what he calls emerging risks. These are brand new type of risks have never happened before and have no historical data. In the cyber world, this is very real. Think about AI-powered cyber attack, where an artificial intelligence system automatically adapts its attack strategy to avoid detection. Or think about the future threat of quantum computing, which could potentially break the encryption system that protect our data today. The second challenge is the increasing complexity of system. Even called this system of system. Large interconnect system where a problem in one part can spread to 2021. A ransomware attack on one company caused full shortage for millions of people across the eastern United States because so many things were connected to the one pipeline system. The third challenge is better risk communication. How do you explain complex, uncertain cyber risks to executives and decision makers who may not have a technical background? This is a real problem that many security teams face. Often, security investment do not get approved because management does not fully understand the risks. Even I guess that the risk field needs to develop better tools for communicating uncertainty clearly and honestly. What makes Aven's journal still relevant today? Aven in 2025 and 2021 is that it focus on the foundation of how to think about risks, not specific technical tools that quickly become outdated. Attack techniques and defense tools change very fast in the cyber world, but the way we define risks, how we handle uncertainty, how we build robustness and resilience, those principles stay valid no matter what technology we are using. As a good reviewer, we should not just say everything about a journal is great. We also need to give an honest and balanced evaluation. Let's start with the strengths. First, this journal is very comprehensive. In just 13 pages, Evan managed to cover many important aspects of the foundation of risk management. This is very impressive. Second, the integrative approach is very valuable. Aven does not just pick one perspective and ignore all the other. Instead, he used the tension between different perspectives to reach a deeper and more complete understanding. Third, because it focuses on fundamental concepts, it is useful across many fields, including, as we have seen, information system security. But there are also some limitations that we need to acknowledge. The first is that is no systematic review methodology. The journal does not use standard like Prisma for systematic literature review. This means the process is not fully transparent or replicable. Evan himself admits that selection of paper is subjective. Second, because it was written in 2016, it naturally does not cover some of the most dangerous cyber threats that have emerged since then, like AI power attacks, ransomware as a service, or the quantum computing threats to encryption. But this is not really a fault of the journal, it is simply a limitation of time. Third, the journal is quite abstract and academic. It is excellent for building a strong theoretical foundation, but someone who needs practical step-by-step security guide might find it hard to use directly. For practical application, you would need to command with documents like NIST A130 or ISO 2705. Overall, despite this limitation, I think this is very valuable and important journal. The limitations are normal and I expect for a review paper of this type, and they don't reduce the core value of what Evan has contributed. Okay, that is all from my journal review. I hope this video was helpful and easy to understand. See you in the next video. Thank you. Bye. Jangan lagi deh Pak, please.